Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, as you see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where we'll be talking, as you can tell by the title, about Lethal Company. Just a little bit, because, you know, I don't know when else I will talk about it, because I don't know necessarily when I'll play it again next. So if you're new here, this is just, you know, my daily video blog. I'm not recreating Lethal Company in Animal Crossing or anything. This is just like my random thoughts. It's not a structured review, etc., etc. This is purely subjective, and it's just for good fun. So yeah, I mean, I brought it up a little bit in yesterday's episode when my friends messaged me and they wanted me to play Lethal Company. Well, I will get into this. Hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, it's 4:02 PM on Sunday, November 26, 2023. Well, actually, my friend asked me to play Lethal League, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, like, it's quite an old game. And then he was like, it's a survival horror game, and I was like, I don't think you mean Lethal League. But yeah, Lethal Company, if you don't know, it's kind of like the viral indie horror game that's come out recently, indie co-op horror game, which is a surprisingly common thing. Like, we had Phasmophobia, we had, I think, Survivor Backrooms, we had, I cannot remember what it's called. In my mind, it's called like Fragile or Silent or something, but the one where you collect like dolls and there's like the ghost with a mouth taped up, and there's like Cult. It's not Cult Simulator, it's a different one, but there's some other cultist one. It's a surprisingly common indie genre, well, game genre in general. For indie horror, you know, indie and horror kind of go hand in hand, because I feel like a lot of the times indie games can obviously push boundaries a lot more, and horror is one which is a genre which definitely benefits the most from being boundary pushed, I suppose, compared to, you know, playing it safe with some AAA titles. And there's not huge amounts of AAA horror, but I mean, obviously there's like Silent Hill, there's Resident Evil, there's, I mean, Outlast, and yeah, I think those are all not indie, but there's probably some others as well, to be perfectly honest. But I feel like indie and horror definitely go hand in hand. I mean, they go hand in hand in like film and media, so why not for video games too? But I will say that maybe this is my own personal judgment of my own personal judgmental attitude. Like, a lot of the times, like after I don't even know what the first one was, the first like co-op indie horror game or something that came out. I'm trying to think. I feel like it might be that Cult one, but I don't really remember. But there might be one before that. Indie co-op horror game. Like Phasmophobia, I feel like definitely was like a big over forest. Is that what I'm thinking of? Like, it wasn't what I was thinking of, but it's a different one entirely. Oh, it's not what I was thinking of at all. But I feel like Dead by Daylight's actually a good one as well, now I think about it. But there's quite a few of these, you know, now I'm looking at it. And I feel like Phasmophobia was one of the much more recent ones, which I feel like exploded in popularity compared to like a Pacifier, that's what it's called, one I was thinking of. Oh, SCP, sorry, as well, is also one. But all of these, I mean, to be fair, I think SCP is actually a good example, because that's kind of a general vibe of going on, of like these just regular people or something trying to achieve a task together while being hunted down by horrific monsters. And Lethal Company is not really like pushing the mold, I think, in any new way that I particularly know of. It's still at the core concept a similar sort of thing. You are a group of not survivors this time, but workers. You are entering like a very haunted-esque. It's not haunted because it's not really sort of like a ghost. Well, it kind of is in the ghost-esque sort of horror-y sense, but it's more like the sort of abomination, sort of like SCP sort of way, is how I would describe it. And you might be like, what's the difference? And if there is no difference, even fair enough. And I feel like a lot of these games, I sort of look at them and I'd be like, okay, these feel like they'll be fun for a little bit, maybe just for a good laugh, and then that's just kind of it. To me, they kind of feel more like streamer games, where it's sort of like, because I mean, horror in itself lends well to the streamer sort of angle, because you can be very emotive when it comes to it, and there's a certain sense of schadenfreude of being able to partake, I suppose, in these like horror-esque games, but maybe you don't personally want to go through it yourself. You can watch someone else do it, and then it's like you get to see their fun reactions at the same time, and there's a sort of like a not symbiotic relationship, but it's like a mutually beneficial sort of dynamic there when it comes to playing these horror games as like a streamer. And I will fully admit that my judgmental attitude, I will look at these games a lot of times and be like, this seems like a streamer game, this does not seem like a game I'd like to play, because at the core concept of these games is they're indie games, to be fair. So anything, it's remarkable about what can be created like on an indie like budget and timescale, that sort of thing. I'm not expecting the same polish as AAA titles, but at the same time, it's not something which is so easily overlooked. Like it's a thing which, whether you like it or not, will contribute to the game feel of a game, whether how polished it is or not. So it always feels like, there's like the game's buggy, or the graphics are like, quite sort of retro, shall we say, like a sort of PlayStation 2 era sort of style of graphics, or there's like some weird game designs, etc, etc, etc. So I've very much written most of these off. But Lethal Company, my friends were playing it, and they were having a fun time, and they invited me. They were like, hey, do you want to play? And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot, why not? Because I think it's a good sign if they play it once and then playing it again, they are actively inviting other people to play it because they think it would be fun. Then I'll be like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And to be fair, any co-op game with friends is always a good time for a while, even Among Us and that sort of thing. Like, even though I don't care too much for social deception games or too much, I think I'd still enjoy the first 10 hours or so I played it, because it's playing with your friends is fun, provided you like your friends, I suppose. In which case, if you don't, then maybe you should consider finding a different group of friends or something. But so I was kind of prepared to write it off. I was just still, of course, I go into games with an open mind and that sort of thing. But I think nowadays I'm much more aware of the things I like in games and things I like to do. So but I feel like the main benefit that these games have, because I had a very fun time actually playing it yesterday with my friends. The main benefit that these sort of games have is that sort of sense. It's not necessarily with. I don't want to do a disservice to the game itself and being like none of it's up to the game, because that's definitively not true. But I feel like a big point of these games is that sort of sense of discovery, or that sense of the stories that are created with your friends as you play the game, right? I'm not saying that Lethal Company is a bad game. I'm not saying that, but I'm not going to say it's like a top 10 game of all time or anything. But what I think is the important part of the key distinction is, regardless of whether it is objectively a good or bad, I suppose, from a technical standpoint, it is a fun time nonetheless. And you might be like, why are you saying fun time rather than a fun game? And again, that sort of brings me to the point of, I feel like what makes this most enjoyable is the stories you get from playing with your friends in it. It's the same thing with Among Us. There's those crazy betrayals that someone's did, or the silly thing that someone did which completely outed themselves as the imposter. These are the stories which perpetuate in your mind when you think back to the good times when you play the games. And I think this is just another vehicle for that. So anyway, so you might be like, what is Lethal Company? I've never heard of it. It's basically how I described it, well, how I understand it, is you're kind of playing Pikmin, except for you're the Pikmin and it's horror themed. And you might be like, what does that mean? You are a worker for a company. You have a certain quota of profits to reach every 3 days or something. And how you make those profits is you land on these alien planets, you go into these areas, these compounds or something, you extract materials from them and you sell them on your ship. The twist is that there are a lot of things on these planets trying to kill you actively at all times, and it's part of the game. It's basically a horror survival, I suppose, mini game every single time. And it honestly is genuinely a lot of fun, but it is still within me where I'm just how much of that fun is because I'm having a fun time with my friends, or is it because of a game itself, or is it a bit of both? Is it a sort of, they're going hand in hand, because of the mechanics of the game itself lend to good stories being told. And I think it's probably a bit of both, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, there's even though we only played it for an afternoon or something, there's so many random stories of just thrilling events which happened, which have stuck in my mind as fun things to do. And I just got a phone notification, and I just need to check if it's one I need to. No, it's okay. I can just Amazon just keeps sending me emails being like, hey, do you want to get this microphone boom arm? I would like to, but you didn't put it on sale. All these stories which can come from it, basically, because it's a game where you are expected to die, basically. It's you as a character in the game, you are nothing more than corporate pawns, I suppose. You're disposable is probably the best way to put it. You go into there fully expecting you're going to die, but you're going to try and make a profit out of it in the first place. But because of it's so horror filled in the first place, I feel like it lends well to allowing you to get those sort of streamer horror-esque moments, but with the story within your friends, with those moments within your friend groups, locally, rather than having these clipped on Twitch moments, etc, etc. And I think that the game mechanics itself lend pretty well to that. It's a lot of a game about, I'm not sure how to describe it, but isolation, unknown information, which horror goes, of course, hand in hand with horror. Nothing is scarier than the unknown, is what people tend to say. And, you know, I think that's honestly very true. But there's a lot of like information lacking in the game, and it's through the sort of sense of a discovery, through the like encountering the unknown, which gives you the cool stories. Which brings me sort of onto the next part. I know we're covering like all these points in a really weird order, but it's about longevity of what this game has. Is I don't think it's going to be a game which entertains me for that long. I think it will entertain me up to a point where we figure out basically how to deal with all the monsters, how to best like have a strategy, and at that point is probably when the game will become boring. Because I'm absolutely free to be proven wrong in this, but my hunch is the thing which is making it so engaging is that sort of sense of the unknown. You know, at the end of the day, you know, talking with friends being like, oh my god, did you see that? I'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe you escaped from that monster, like I saw you on the map, it was right behind you. And then or things like that. But a lot of it really does lend well to a good storytelling. Like proximity chat is one of the greatest things. Like we played it, it's actually one of the things I found like kind of sucky about Among Us is a lot of the times it's really boring, because a lot of times you're not talking, and then there's meeting times you talk for a minute and that's it. And it's like, that's not my idea of hanging out with friends. I want to hang out with my friends and chill and chat and have a good time, but you don't really get that as much with Among Us. The proximity mod is quite a fun time as well, but I don't know if Among Us it kind of works, it kind of doesn't. I think it's because Among Us you have a top-down view, you kind of see more than you actually probably should for something with proximity chat, but it kind of works at the same time. But I think by having it be first person as it does in Lethal Company, it adds to a sort of like creeping sense of terror. Like proximity chat and like the fact that when you die it's cut off, like your voice is cut off immediately, is amazing. Like but I mean, now I'm just going to basically tell you anecdotes and stories of the game, and I can try and illustrate an idea of like how the game itself can lend to these nice storytelling moments, which makes it entertaining. It's okay, I also think that this game is not going to last forever, and that sort of thing, in my opinion, or not last on me personally forever. It's okay for games to come and go, you know, it's still a cheap game, and you know, if you have fun with it, that's kind of the most important part. But maybe these stories can sort of illustrate to what's going on. I'm not going to spoil everything about the game, because I feel like this is really, 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 really core to these sort of games, is that sense of discovery, that sense of unknown, like running into an enemy being like, I don't know what to do, what the heck is that? That's so scary and thrilling. And these sort of games, it's fun to be scared by them. Like I know I say that I am actually quite sort of like, not dead inside, but I tend to have quite like stoned emotions when it comes to no, stoned is wrong, I meant like stone wall rather than on drugs emotions, but I tend to have very flat emotions reactions when it comes to things. But it doesn't mean I can't buy into things. I can't like it's not like acting scared, I suppose, but it's not like I can't exaggerate my emotions for, you know, the fun of it, that sort of thing. I guess the best way to put it is it's fun to buy into this sort of things. Like the same way when you're watching magic, it's fun to play the sucker, isn't it? Rather than to be like, oh, what are you doing? I've caught you. I saw you had that card up your sleeve, or you tried to make me look this way and you did like a double lift. Like, why would you do that? That's not the point of the magic in the first place. But there's a lot of fun stories. Like one of my favorite stories was, I can't remember what happened. Like we were trying to steal basically a beehive, and it turns out bees are very super like lethal. And then it was like I was trapped inside a spaceship with another one of my friends, and it was like, okay, the bees are outside, they know we're in here. I'm gonna like make a sprint for it, because the doors can only stay closed for a certain amount of time. I'm gonna make a sprint for it, you know, I hope you'll be okay. And she was on like 1 HP. So I like ran. I sprinted out after opening the things and, you know, escape the bees. And then I was like, oh, I didn't sprint out like with anything. I didn't recharge my torch or anything. And I was like, it's getting pretty late. I guess the best thing I can do is try and make it to the compound and try and like get some materials that maybe they've left behind, and I'll bring stuff back. But at this point I didn't know, dramatic irony, everyone on my team had died. Like there was 6 of us or something, and they were all just like watching me or something, and I was just wandering around being like, hello, is anyone here? I walked into the compound a little bit, yelled out, no one's there. That sense of being alone, or I think the better way to put it is the sense of being alone and not knowing if you are alone or not is crazy. Because I'm pretty sure that enemies know you're speaking in game. This wouldn't surprise me if a game like even like reacts to it in certain ways, or certain enemies have this sort of thing. It smells like that sort of game. And I just basically went to a compound, I picked up like some random scrap, and I was like, I need to head on my way back, except for it's now evening time and there's huge monsters roaming about, and I'm like, okay, I need to avoid the bees at the same time. So I sneak around the bees, and I get to the base and I see like a T-Rex monster or something in the distance, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty scary. And when I walk into a base and I just like see the dead bodies of my crewmates on the floor, I went, oh no, everyone's dead. And I walk up to one and then I'd be like, okay, well, I guess I should close the door and take off because I might be the only one alive. And I walk to the door and there's one of the T-Rexes literally standing there, charges at me, and I immediately die. And the best part is, as soon as you die, immediately die, you're put in the dead chat. I mean, I can hear all my friends just laughing because it's just such a ridiculous, silly moment. As I go, well, I guess I've got to take off, and I just go, ah, when I die. It's so good. These are moments that you got to live for yourself, I suppose. There's another really good moment where I was the one on the terminal. I was like keeping track of people. We were on a stormy thing, and immediately like some friends walked out and was like, oh, you know, if you're holding something metallic, drop it, otherwise you'll be struck by lightning. And we were like, okay, let's not bring the shovel and things like that, because let's not bring anything metallic. And then I'm just like keeping track of my friends, I'm seeing them dying, that sort of thing, and then like 3 of them come back or something. And it's like, okay, yeah, okay, we're going to try and go back and get some more materials. I'm like, okay, I'll keep an eye on you and that sort of thing. And then they're just like, we haven't left yet or something. And then it's just like, oh, where did friend A go? You know, where did Bob go? But that's not their actual names, of course. And then, you know, I just hear the 2 talking in the background, and it's like, oh, where did Alice go? She's gone. Like, I don't hear her voice anymore. And it's like, oh, where did... And then suddenly I'm just like talking to my other friend, and I'm watching her on the map, and I just see her body get flown off to the side, and she stops moving. And I'm like... Her name's not Charlie, but I'm like, Charlie, hello? At this point, I also don't know. All my friends died, and they all died because they were struck by lightning. Because they were, like, we took the shovel out again, and it was just sitting there, like, near the exit, I suppose, of our spaceship. So I walk out, and I see the dead bodies strewn everywhere. I'm like, okay, I guess I should, because if you retrieve dead bodies, you get money back, basically. I'll retrieve dead bodies. So I grab, like, 2 of them, I put them back, and I go down, and I go down the ladder to get like another one of my friend, and I just see I see like torches, walkie-talkie, and a shovel on the ground, and I'm like, what happened here? And I get struck by lightning immediately, and I die. Again, to a raucous laughter of my friends in the death chat. And it's just moments like that are so funny. There's also like super spooky moments where I was just like walking through, me and my friend, we going through a fire exit, we walk in, there's like, I didn't even get to see it properly, but my friend described it as like a wraith just standing there, and it like screamed at us, and we just both immediately turned out and went, nope, we're not doing that. Because it was funny, because seconds before we went in there to be like, oh yeah, it was cool, there's like some like items in here to like scrap to sell. And we just both went back in, and it was like that. Another time I went into a fire exit, I walked in and I looked to the left, there was a monster, I looked to the right, there was a slime, and I went, okay, I'm out of it. Just immediately. There was another time I was walking through my friend, we didn't have flashlights or anything, and I was just like constantly scanning things, and scanning, what it does, it lights up enemies, and not lights up enemies, but it says like, hey, the new enemy found. Or like there's an object here. And the thing is, when you get a new enemy found, it'll be like, oh, enemy entry added to bestiary. And then there's a thing, we were like hit a dead end. I was going to start backtracking. I scanned, and like the only thing I saw was like glowing eyes, and it said new entry added to the thing, Bracken. And I was like, what the heck is a Bracken? And I just sprinted past it as my friend was like, what happened? And I was like, run. And somehow survived, and we both reconvened at the end of the night. I'd be like, I had no idea you survived. It's crazy, like the opportunity you get from that. And again, a lot of that is because my friends are buying into. Like, I think it's a sort of game which I'm not going to take away credit from the game, but credit where credit is due. The mechanics of the game itself lend well to these sort of things. But I suppose everyone can play that sort of that survivor role in a horror movie. It turns like everyone into an actor on the big stage. I was just checking if I did my Nookmar missions. I couldn't remember if I did this Nookmar points or not. And it's fun, I suppose, in that way. It's fun to sort of buy into the sort of stories. It's fun to do these silly things together and learn and discover. So I don't know if it's a game which has that much lasting power for me personally. Again, I make my prediction as soon as we figure out what each of the enemies does, as soon as we see everything goes to sea, I will probably get bored of the game and it's not going to have that much lasting power. But for the moment, if I'm enjoying it, you know, let's lean into it. Let's buy into it. Let's be like, yes, let's have a fun time with all of this. There's no need to, I suppose, hate on it before it's even over, right? Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord, down below. And I hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. And just before I round off, you know, if you've got a group of friends, round them all up. Play Lethal Company. I think you'll have a whale of a time. It is silly, silly fun. Anyway. Bye-bye for now.